what do you remember as the prominent workers' issues that we dealt with in the early 1980s and the early 1990s? I'll start with you, sir.
Yeah, the workers' movement that we know today, particularly under the umbrella of the National Union of Namibian Workers, NUNW, started around the mid-80s. That was a time when kind of community organization reached new heights, mobilization against the colonial occupation and repression. And there were some former Robben Island prisoners, political prisoners, that were released at that time, the late John Padeni, Benu Lenga, Peter Ilonga, and others. And they joined this emerging movement inside the country and were instrumental in setting up these unions. And so in the 1980s, from about 1985 to independence, 1990, the unions played a very strong role in linking workplace issues and workers' rights issues with the struggle for political independence. And that gave them quite a strong standing, and I remember the May Day rallies in the 1980s. There were tens of thousands of people standing in dusty football fields, etc. And people came out of conviction, and the Makakunyas, the Kufuts were all around taking photos and recording what was happening. But it was a determination that shone through, and it was that situation and that pivotal role that trade unions managed to play at that time that made them hugely popular in Namibia at the time.
What do you remember, Mr. Kapenda? What do you recall from those early days?
No, the early days, the working class in Namibia, just like the churches, just like the students, they were more preoccupied with the political emancipation of the Namibian nation. Now, I remember that time, particularly when the establishment of the NUNW was taking place, I was a plant combatant.
Yes.
And we were very happy to hear that inside the country, people have started now mobilizing the workers into a cohesion, into a formidable force that is challenging the enemy both at the workplace and also on the political front. I remember also the Department of Labor being created in KwaZulu, in Luanda, in everywhere, and our former trade unionists first being trained in Scandinavian countries, and they came back and to mobilize how the workforce should work within Namibia. And we used to some kind of look down upon them because we were for more of a fighting than what.
Yeah, you didn't consider that they
we
would
don't
make a
consider
valuable
them
contribution.
very no, we consider them valuable, but
not to the same level.
Not the same level like one.
I understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Namalenga, during that specific time that we're talking about, workers were essentially defined or categorized by the race, physical, the physical appearance, and obviously when independence came in 1990, that changed. Maybe you can talk to us amongst the, if you talk about the discrimination then, the way that we divided people, separated and defined people at the time, and what do you think it did for worker relations?
Well, I must say the approach of the workers at that time was twofold. One was truly to ensure that the voice of the Namibian people moving to the independence and dealing with colonialism and apartheid, that was one. Then you have a true workers' issue. Of course, it is linked together because you find the workers at work are being discriminated based on the color and